Hello, this is the NICU Lived Network, and we are your hosts. I'm Melinda.
I'm Nat.
And I'm Emma. We are all NICU mothers using our lived experience to partner with health professionals to impact research, advocacy, and clinical practice.
Each week we will bring you something new. It could be a topic highlight, the latest in research, or ways in which you can use your lived experience within the NICU to impact change. We hope you enjoy this episode.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this episode of the NICU Lived Network. You're with Mel and Nat. Hi, Nat.
Hello.
Unfortunately, Emma could not join us tonight as soccer training has started with her little one, so that's okay. But we are really excited because we're talking about the Wait a Minute or More study, or the wamM study, with Dr Himanshu Popat. Hi, Himanshu, how are you?
Good. Hello, how are you?
Good, very good. Thank you for joining us. So I'm going to tell people a little bit about you, and then I'll ask you to explain the wamM study to us. So Dr Himanshu Popat is the clinical lead and co-director of the Grace Centre for Newborn Intensive Care at the Newborn Intensive Care Units at the NICU at the Children's Hospital in Westmead. He is the Future Leader Fellow at the NHMRC, which is the National Health and Medical Research Council Clinical Trials Centre in Sydney, and he co-leads research at the Grace Centre for Newborn Intensive Care, and chairs NICUs, which is the New South Wales Newborn Intensive Care Unit Study Group, which audits the mortality and morbidity of all babies admitted to New South Wales and ACT NICUs. So maybe later we can ask you a little bit about that as well, because that's really interesting. But first, we are talking about the wamM study, which stands for Wait a Minute or More. So do you want to explain that to us for everyone that's listening?
Yes. So first of all, thank you very much for this opportunity.
Great.
I'm excited to talk about the wamM study, or the Wait a Minute or More study. I'll provide you a little bit of background to just understand about the study a bit more. This is a quality improvement initiative, which means that we want to encourage practices that already have good evidence. So as you may have heard about the Australian placental transfusion study, which was now published 7 years ago. I was again looking at the date. It's been 7 years since the study was published. And Australia led the study, the Clinical Trial Center, and that study recruited about 1,566 preterm babies. And half of them received delayed cord clamping, which is clamping beyond 60 seconds, and the other half received immediate cord clamping. And that study, when it was incorporated into a systematic review, showed that just by delaying the clamping beyond a minute saved lives by around good 30%. So that was very, very impressive. And subsequently, the Australian placental transfusion study also published the 2-year outcomes. So initially, we were talking about the hospital outcomes, which is survival at discharge. They went on and published the 2-year outcomes. And that study showed that the delayed cord clamping, or clamping beyond 60 seconds, even improved death or disability at 2 years of age. And that was again by an impressive 17%. So we were talking around the table, looking at this evidence, thinking about, wow, this is really good intervention, a very simple intervention, no cost intervention, just wait for a minute. And we started talking about, so what's happening in Australia? Let's have a look. And when we looked at the data, we were slightly puzzled that we had data from 21 tertiary units that routinely contribute data to the registry. And we were expecting everybody was practicing this, at least close to 80%. But only 1 out of 21 sites were actually achieving the target of 85%. And that was a surprise to us. So hence, we then came up with the concept of wamM study, which is how can we promote this practice across Australia by developing a very tailored education package for all the units.
It sounds so simple. Sorry, Nat. Yeah,
no, it's just incredible. Like that, it's that only 1 out of all those centers were doing that. Do you know why? Is that just because they weren't sure, or they just kind of, it wasn't embedded into kind of policy, or like what was the obstacle there?
Yeah, look, like you, we were also slightly surprised, but it is not unusual. If you see in health, whenever there is research happening, when the evidence comes out, there is a field of science called implementation science, which is all to do with how can we encourage research be translated into practice.
Mhm.
So I think there are many reasons. Change is a big thing. It always takes some time to creep in. There could be resources issue. There could be just awareness. There could be anxiety around waiting for a minute, because normally we doctors are trained to immediately resuscitate newborn babies. Now, when I was involved in the APTS trial, as I said, 8 years ago now, I remember even the first baby when I was involved and we had to wait for a minute. It felt like a very long time. So
Yes.
the units that did not participate in the APTS trial, it it is a different experience. So there is a whole science behind how can we encourage the uptake of the research into practice, and that's how we came up with the concept of this study, which is based on a implementation science framework of how can we get this practice across Australia.
So Himanshu, can you explain? Because I'm just trying to think, like when I delivered Dylan. So Dylan was 27 weeks plus 2 days. And for me, I had pretty much been in labor 3 to 4 days before. Like it was just, and I was exhausted when he was born. So I have no memory of what happened once, he was on the outside. And then very quickly at some point they kind of showed him to me, and then he was gone to the NICU. But what's that process currently like? You talk about waiting a minute to clamp that cord. What normally happens when a baby is delivered, and then what could happen to then have that minute? Because I imagine when a baby's born full term, there's kind of like this elation, and you then prep dad to cut the cord, so there is kind of like a delay anyway. But when it's in a completely different situation where the baby's unwell or been born extremely premature, it's kind of very medical, I guess, the process. So what happens, like when you're in the room, what happens from a doctor's perspective to
Yes,
then
yes,
how do we change that?
yes, yes. So look, as you rightly said, with the term baby, they generally come out crying, screaming, and the delay, a little bit of delay is very normal in that way, getting the father to cut the cord. When a preterm baby is born, look, I think over a period of time, we have sort of got into the habit of straight away getting the baby clamping the cord. But if you look at many, many years ago, the practice was always wait and almost allow the cord to stop pulsating. But somewhere about 50, 100 years ago, the practice crept in where there was immediate clamping of the cord was sort of creeped in. Now, in regards to your question, what happens after the baby is born? Uh, most of the babies are going to be reasonably well. They may not need immediate support. When I say immediate support to provide ventilation or bag and mask ventilation to help them breathe. Most of the time, close to 75, 80% of the baby may just gradually, if you allow them to just transition, that's the word we use, they may take some breaths, they may take some gasp, and you can always stimulate them with a warm towel, and then they will gradually transition. So most of the babies will do that on their own, and waiting a minute just maybe allows them to transition well, allows them to breathe well, even before you do any intervention. So we have realized more and more over the last few years, because now this practice is, in the right way, it's been sort of performed more as a standard of care in many units. So we have realized that if we just allow them to transition, allow them to breathe, stimulate, most of the babies will tolerate that period very well. And recently, which was, I think, late last year in December, Lena Sedler and her group from Clinical Trials Center published a even a larger, what we call a meta-analysis, where they pooled the data from close to 50 trials, and they showed that in about more than 6,000 babies, they confirmed what we found earlier, where if you wait for a minute, it still saves lives by 30%. But they also showed that if you wait for a longer, maybe it's like a dose response where you give more, you get more effect. They showed that if you wait for a little longer, it may be even more beneficial. So hence we are now encouraging sites to wait for a minute or more, and that's the emphasis on more. Uh, so we want you to wait at least a minute, but we would actually like you to wait more if the baby is stable. Obviously, if the baby needs immediate resuscitation, then you are going to act accordingly. Now, I know there are some units where they have facilities where they actually have a resuscitation equipment right next to the mother. So they can actually provide resuscitation when the cord is still intact and they can still clamped after a minute or more. But not every units have those facilities available. So hence we, as a part of our trial, which is more a implementation trial, we want to encourage the participating units to wait for a minute or more if the baby is not needing immediate resuscitation. However, if you have facilities to provide resuscitation with the cord which is still intact, you can still do by providing resuscitation and then clamp the cord after a minute.
Is it possible in that minute for kangaroo care to happen or not because they're born so early?
Look, that could be practiced as well. As long as you have a baby that is being observed, which is possible with the kangaroo care as well, and
Yeah.
also you have the opportunity to stimulate, keep the baby warm, which is great with kangaroo care as well.
Yeah.
It could be performed. I mean, there has been sort of uh, contradicting sometimes advice about whether the gravity is responsible to get more blood from the mother to the baby. But
Yeah.
over a period of time, at least a group from Melbourne has shown that it's the breathing effort that is very important, and that probably determines the smooth transition and the transfusion of the blood from the mother to the baby rather than just the position. So
Yeah.
hence, we want to encourage the baby to wait, take a few gasps, few breaths, and then you can clamp the cord.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, Himanshu, and it's a bit of a left field question, but does that work if you have multiples involved as well?
Yes, that can work if you have multiples involved as well. Yes.
Okay. All right. And sorry, my next question.
Yeah. I was just
Sorry,
picturing. No, I was picturing that with multiples, having them delivered and leaving the cord intact.
Yeah. And so I was just curious, the project, is it actually has it actually started, or is it
Yes.
about to start?
So as a part of the project, we are recruiting up to 20 sites. So we have so far recruited 18 sites that have
That's great.
done the necessary paperwork, and these 18
Yeah.
sites are all around the Australia, like all around Australia. We have a couple of sites from Northern Territory, for example, Darwin and Alice Springs.
Yeah.
We have sites from Victoria, South Australia, New South Wales, Tasmania, and even Western Australia. So it's sort of including Queensland. So we have sites all around the Australia and up to 20 sites, and we are all lining them up because the way the trial is designed is that we want all of them ready at the starting line, and then when they're all ready at the starting line, they all start collecting the data about when they are clamping the cord in terms of number of seconds before the cord was clamped. So one feedback to the sites is that they can see their own data every weekly of what's happening in their unit in preterm babies. And the second intervention is a special education package, which is based on a quality improvement program from Canada. It's called EPIQ. That's the methodology which we are going to use. So the design is such that when all the sites are on the starting line, after a certain period of time, randomly 5 sites will receive the education program, and then 5 sites will receive the education program. After some time, another 5 sites. So at the end of the study, all 20 sites will receive this special education program or package to help them improve their delayed cord clamping or number of seconds before they clamp the cord.
And why are you kind of giving that education package in a staggered approach? Is it just to kind of monitor and see how they respond to it, or is it just logistics?
Yes. Yeah, so one is the logistic, because it is very hard to administer the education package to 20 sites at once. But the second also, we are very keen to know whether if we just give you your own data every week to look at that, in the last week, you had 15 babies delivered. Out of that, you were able to clamp the cord beyond 60 seconds in, say, 10 of them. Does that change your approach? Just having a look at the data. And that's a very effective way to change practice, change behavior as well. So hence we wanted to see whether the data in itself can influence behavior and change, or it is the special education package or the program, or it is data in addition to the education program. So hence the design is such that it allows us to even study the influence of just data or data and education package combined.
Oh, that's amazing.
And
And sorry, one more question. Just when you say the sites, are you talking about just hospital sites or hospital sites with NICUs or special care nurseries?
so we have 10 sites that are what we call tertiary sites, where they have maternity hospital with a newborn intensive care unit that can look after extremely preterm babies, right
Yeah.
down to 23, 24 weekers. And we have another 10 sites, which we call non-tertiary sites, where they have a maternity hospital and they also have a uh, special care nursery or a newborn intensive care unit, but they may not necessarily look after very extremely preterm babies. They can look after babies who are born, say, from 30 to 36 weeks or 37-week gestation. So hence we wanted to have a mix of both tertiary and non-tertiary sites, so that it could be generalized, if this is going to be effective, whether it's the data or data along with the education package. If we eventually roll it out to 250 maternity hospitals across Australia, the impact would be so much greater, and we would be, saving lives of preterm babies all around.
So Himanshu, when you talk about impact, so you mentioned at the beginning about the 30%. In a really simple way, can you explain what delaying the cord, like cord clamping, does for the baby? Like what's the outcome, the improved outcome?
Yeah, so look, it is basically saving lives. So if you think about when I say
Sorry, that's a
30%,
30% reduction in death.
30% reduction in death. So if you think about it, you have 100 babies who have received delayed cord clamping, and the 100 babies in comparison who have received immediate cord clamping. Then if, say, 10 babies, just because of their prematurity, die in the immediate cord clamping group, then there are 7 babies dying in the delayed cord clamping group. So there is a reduction in 3 deaths, for example, which is the 30% here, because I'll give sort of a simple example of 10 out of 100, or 90 surviving in the immediate cord clamping group and 93 surviving in the delayed cord clamping group. And you can multiply that, with the number of birth rates and everything. So the impact is significant.
Yeah. Well, we know in Australia, 48,000 babies are born premature or sick. So yeah, when you multiply that, so if we know this, what would be the reasons that a baby would not have delayed cord clamping? Like when a baby's delivered, and how would they present to not be given that
Yeah,
option?
look, sometimes the babies who need, for some reason, immediate resuscitation. Some babies are really born very sick for reasons, maybe the reasons leading to the delivery, where there was significant bleeding and the baby was just very sick to begin with. Then the baby may need immediate resuscitation. So, that is one of the common reasons where there's a concern about the baby,
Yeah.
which is a significant concern. And as I said, still up to 80 to 85% of the babies will be able to receive this intervention, which is delayed cord clamping. It's only we are talking about 10 to 15% of the babies where they may need immediate resuscitation.
And then is there like a follow-on? So I know, so I'm part of the WEEK trial, which is withholding feeds during blood transfusions for babies. And blood transfusions seem to be decreased across the country in our NICUs, which is great. Is that an effect to of being able to delay the cord because
Yes.
of the flow of
So
blood. Yeah.
yes. So one of the other significant effect that was shown by the recent very large what we call meta-analysis is that babies who received delayed cord clamping, the need for blood transfusion was reduced by 40%. So that's quite significant as well. So you're
Yeah.
right that the need for blood transfusion is significantly less.
Sorry, did you say cut by 40%?
Yes, yes. So when the babies are born, they're just born with higher hemoglobin to start with. So their baseline is high. So their nadir or the fall is definitely not that low, and they can avoid the need for blood transfusion. That's quite significant as well. And because of this impressive, I guess, effect of delayed cord clamping, hence we went to the Medical Research Foundation or the taxpayers' money to say that we have a intervention that is such high evidence. We
Mm-hmm.
would like to implement it across Australia, and hence we were successful in getting the MRFF funding. And also we this is an implementation trial, which means that because there is such good evidence, there is a waiver of consent. So when we applied to the ethics committee to say we want to actually encourage the implementation of this practice across Australia, we fulfilled all the requirements for waiver of consent. So
Mm-hmm.
say if your site is participating in wamM study, you don't need to obtain prospective consent from each and individual family, because this is not trying to understand if it works or not. We know it works. It's basically
Mm.
trying to ensure that it is being provided and offered to each and every family. So hence, it's less burdensome for the staff in a way that you don't have to obtain consent. And one of the other exciting thing is that, as I said earlier, one of the intervention that we have is the education package or the quality
Mm-hmm.
improvement program. And we want to encourage every site to form a team of 6 to 8 members, and we want them to be multidisciplinary. The 6 to 8 team members could be an obstetrician, could be a pediatrician, a neonatologist, a midwife. But the most exciting thing is that we also want parents. We are encouraging parents, one or two parents, to be part of the team, just to understand what are the barriers and what are the enablers that we can leverage on to promote this practice. So, if some of your listeners, if they want to get involved in this, they
Mm-hmm.
can go to the participating sites and say, like, look, I want to be part of the local multidisciplinary team to help implement this practice of delayed cord clamping in our hospital.
That's great. And so, for a parent who decided to be involved, what would that look like for them? Would they have to attend meetings, or just like, just what would it look like?
So, and the first thing would be when they form part of the team, they will receive a what we would say virtual education, sort of it's a workshop that they need to attend, which will generally last for, I would say, around 6 hours. That's the first workshop, which is basically providing you with the tools and the education program that will enable you to then go to your wider team within the hospital and discuss. We need to come up with one or two change ideas, and how can we implement those change ideas to improve the practice of delayed cord clamping. So for a family, for a parent, or for a mother or a father, one is they will need to attend the virtual workshop. But from there on, the commitment would be every monthly we would encourage them to attend a meeting with, again, this is going to be virtual up to an hour,
Yeah.
and there could be some email communication. So apart from the first 6 hour workshop, the ongoing commitment would be every monthly 1 hour meeting, which is going to be virtual. And if they wish to attend in person together with the team from their hospital, they all could be then virtually meet the central facilitator. I think another exciting thing that I would like to share about this project, which is unique, is that we are going to have a parent partner, that's what we are calling it, more centrally located at the clinical trial center in Sydney. And this parent partner is going to support the 20 sites the mothers or the fathers who are happy to be part of this, they can, the central parent partner could support them and encourage them and share ideas about how can we then encourage this practice of delayed cord clamping within individual hospitals.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I think it'll be a lot more, I think for some families it'd be a lot more kind of comfortable, because you're not just, you're dealing with another parent.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. And so you would be looking for like families to be involved with every site?
So we would encourage at
Yeah.
least one family
At
per
every
site,
site.
and if they can form part of that local team, that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
At least one and up to two, if possible.
Yeah.
It's such a great opportunity for families to be involved. I mean, if you look at the entire study, like, it's absolutely high impact when you're talking about reducing death by 30%, reduction of, blood transfusions by 40% for something that's basically free. Like, it's working with Mother Nature to just wait a minute or more, hands off, before you cut that cord, and to have parents so involved. Like, I think the way that you have designed this implementation trial is absolutely amazing, and it needs to do, like, it, for us, I think as parents, we think, well, why isn't it already happening? Like, we know these results, it should be happening. So to have a trial like this that's going to educate both families and hospital staff on why this is so important, and hopefully, I guess, when you were talking earlier, it becomes like a culture change, doesn't it? Like, if it's come all these where previously they would wait for the cord, you said, to stop pulsing, and now to move where it was just so quick to cut, and you can understand that. Like, there's so much anxiety and fear, and from parents, particularly when a baby's born so early, desperation. I felt desperate in those moments. Like, to be able to now understand this a lot better and make such a big impact, it's truly incredible, Himanshu. Like, it's going to really change.
And look,
families.
This is the work of chief investigators, that we had a team of 15 chief investigators across the country. We had investigators from all disciplines, like obstetricians, we had neonatologists, we had statisticians, we also had health economics, implementation science expert, sort of physiologists who can understand how things work and why certain things are done into a certain way. And I want to also emphasize that we are encouraging parents to be part of this local QI teams, but at the same time we are mindful that we want to value their time. So we have accounted that for in our budget as well. That we don't want. I know just now you both are sort of volunteering your time with families and everything else. So we want to make sure that we value that time, and we would like to pay the parents for their time away from work, and also for the monthly meeting. So I think it's important that we as a community really value that time that is offered by families, which is so important. And I think, Melinda, you said it's not. I still remember your Pizan's talk. I think a few years ago, and the title. It's like, don't talk about us without us, something along those lines. And it was really impactful. And I still remember that very well.
Yeah, to have us along the way for the entire journey. And
yes,
we're seeing that more and more. And that was, I guess, the inspiration behind doing the NICU Live network, was how do we expose other parents to the opportunities of being part of research and advocacy and clinical practice improvement, so that we can have that impact. And we constantly get the opportunity and the privilege to be on this side of it and work with you and other researchers, and that across the country. There's so many other parents that want to know how to do that. So this was our opportunity to try and expose that. And I feel like as a whole, like, we're being listened to. Like, I think the progression has been amazing, and to now have positions where parents are being paid for their time, that kind of value is incredible. To be able to use our lived experience and our journey to make an impact for others, which is, it's amazing. It's wonderful work. We love doing it for sure.
Right. And I just want to emphasize as well, we are doing it in a very systematic way, the implementation trial. And in addition to the data and the education package, we are also collecting some information about the sites, more so what is the context, what's the workload like, what is the support, what's the culture like, and also how do we think the education package may be working? Does it improve the knowledge of the staff? Does it improve the confidence of the staff? Does it bring about a cultural, you said a cultural change within the unit or a systematic change in the unit? So we are also collecting those information so that at the end of the study, we may be able to use this not only just for this intervention, but very similar intervention, where again there is a good evidence that it should be practiced. What can we do? What can we learn from this so that we can then implement the next intervention in a better way? So there is, even for sites, there is more to it than delayed cord clamping. This will promote a culture of that practicing the interventions or everything that is evidence-based, and how can we get things quicker into practice and not wait for so many years. So, I'm excited in a way that not just for this trial, but I think for similar other initiatives, this could be like a blueprint of how can we do things and get things quickly from research into practice.
Yeah. And that's been, for as long as I've been like a parent representative, that's always been the discussion. How do we implement research into clinical practice where it doesn't happen separate, it actually happens within it, so that we can get outcomes and impact a lot quicker, which is amazing. So I wanted to ask you another question. So for families that are pregnant now, if they're talking to their obstetrician and they're looking at birth plan, or if they find themselves, unfortunately, facing a very early delivery, is this something that they can ask? Can they talk to their doctors and say, we want to have delayed cord clamping, can you wait a minute or more? So it's something that they can ask.
Definitely. I think this should be a discussion, and it should form part of every birth plan. So when you're talking to your obstetricians or midwife, yes, you should bring up delayed cord clamping and have a discussion. And it's almost like, there should be a reason why it is not performed. There's an expectation that it should happen. So it should be the other way around. If it is not performed, you should ask why, so yes, I would say that it should form part of every birth plan, delayed cord clamping.
That's wonderful. And if people want to find out more, what's the best way to be in touch? Or I know we'll put everything into the description of this episode, but if there's ways that people can connect with you.
Yes. So look, I am on LinkedIn and also on Twitter, and I'm sure you can you can share my details. And also, if you have a specific question about the study as well, we have a central team, and they could be reached on the email, which is wamM .study@sydney.edu.au. So you can reach us in any of those ways, and we'll be very happy to answer your questions.
Well, thank you so much. This is, like I said, it's a really exciting trial for us. And even just talking to you, giving us the ability to help empower parents with the knowledge so they know what's going to be happening. There'll be 20 sites across Australia. And the fact that you've got opportunity where past parents or parents who have that lived experience can be part of the trial to assist the units as they roll this out, and also to all new parents that if they find themselves in this situation, to please ask to delay the cord. Yeah, it's amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Did you want to it's not.
Oh, it's so exciting. Like, I'm just like, this is incredible. Like it's something that doesn't have any additional costs. The stats is incredible. It's kind of like, this is almost too good to believe. Like, it's just like, it's just crazy. It's a no-brainer. Yeah, it's wonderful. And yeah, I think it's really exciting. And my next question is, after you have done this study, will you then be doing a bigger study internationally, or are other people doing the same thing? Like, what's next
Look,
after
I
this
think
one?
I know one of my colleague from North America was asking me, can you share your intervention or your protocol with us? I think because this is an implementation trial, we will be publishing our protocol, we will be publishing our studies. So yes, any other sites, any other country want to just learn from our experience, then we will be very happy to share. I think because there is good evidence already, we are now looking at maybe the next thing could be how can we help the practice in some of the developing countries as well.
Yes, I was
And
thinking that. Yeah.
yes. Look, I'm not planning to do any more like any larger study about this because there is already such a good evidence that we don't need more studies about delayed cord clamping in preterm babies. Yes, we may need studies of delayed cord clamping in babies who may have some other problems like congenital anomalies or something else, but not in preterm babies. There is enough evidence to say that this should now be a standard of care.
Yeah. It's exciting.
That's amazing. Is there anything else that you wanted to add, Himanshu?
No, look, thank you for the opportunity again. And it was great talking to both of you. And I would really encourage all the parents to discuss with their obstetricians about delayed cord clamping. And also, if you want information about our study, please get in touch with us and we will provide you the details so you can form part of the teams if your hospital is participating in the study.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And then hopefully you'll come back and chat to us once, the study's on the other side.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can tell
Agree,
us how.
100%.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
wonderful. Well, thank you so much. That's excellent. Thanks, Himanshu.
Thank you, Ned. Thank you, Melinda. Bye.
That's a wrap on another episode of the NICU Live Network. Thanks for joining us today. To stay connected, please make sure you're following us on social media.
And if you found value in this episode, please share, like, or comment.
We'll see you on the next episode.